Okay, so you want to own a car dealership. A little lot on a busy road. New cars lined up in rows with price stickers in the windows. A showroom that smells like fresh upholstery and coffee. Your name on a sign large enough to read from the highway. People come in all weekend, pick out their car, sign the paperwork, and drive off your lot happy. You collect the difference between what the car cost you and what you sold it for. Simple business. Clear margins. Good money. Almost nothing about that picture is accurate. You do not actually own the brand. The car company does. You license it from them. You are not really in the business of selling cars either. You are in the business of financing and servicing them. And that difference between what the car cost you and what you sell it for is, in a normal year, almost nothing. The profit margin on a new car sale can be so thin that it would not cover the electricity bill in your showroom. But the people who understand what a dealership actually is, and where the money genuinely moves through it, can build operations that generate millions of dollars a year in steady income. The ones who think they are buying a car selling business tend to find out they were wrong, usually at the worst possible time. Let us start from the beginning. When you buy a car dealership, you are not buying a business in the way most people think about buying a business. You are buying a franchise. And that distinction matters more than almost anything else in understanding how this works. A franchise means you have permission to operate under a brand that belongs to someone else, under terms that someone else set, in ways that someone else can inspect, evaluate, and hold you accountable for at any point. General Motors owns the Chevrolet brand. Ford owns Ford. Toyota owns Toyota. You license the right to sell and service their vehicles in a defined geographic area, and that license comes with a contract, the franchise agreement, which covers considerably more than most new owners expect when they first read it. The manufacturer tells you what your facility must look like, the square footage of the showroom, what the exterior signage needs to include, what technology systems you are required to use, how your service department must be equipped, what training your staff must complete and by when. Some manufacturers have periodic facility upgrades they require dealers to make to match the latest brand standards. Upgrades that can cost millions. And if you do not comply, the franchise relationship can be at risk. They also measure how your customers feel about doing business with you. After every new car sale and after every service visit, the manufacturer sends a survey to the customer. The scores come back to the dealership. These customer satisfaction index scores, which everyone in the industry calls CSI scores, affect what the manufacturer offers you. Low scores can affect your access to popular vehicles. They affect your standing in the dealer network. In serious cases, they become part of a conversation about whether your franchise agreement gets renewed. You are not buying independence. You are buying a licensed position in someone else's distribution system. And that position comes with real obligations running in both directions. So what does this licensed position actually cost? If you are buying an existing dealership, you are paying for what the industry calls blue sky value. That is the value of the franchise itself, the goodwill attached to the location, the existing customer base, the right to sell that specific brand in that specific market. Blue sky values vary widely depending on the brand, the size of the market, and how the business is currently performing. A Honda dealership in a growing suburb of a major city carries a very different number than a dealership for a slower-selling brand in a market that has been shrinking. Some blue sky values run into the millions of dollars on top of everything else. Some are almost nothing. Then there is the real estate. Dealership buildings are large and specialized. A proper facility needs a showroom, service bays, a parts department, customer waiting areas, finance offices, storage for vehicles awaiting delivery, and a lot large enough to display your inventory. That lot needs to sit on a road with meaningful traffic because visibility matters enormously to how people discover you. Prime road frontage in a good location is not cheap. Then there is the inventory, and this is where the numbers become very large very quickly. A typical new car dealership carries between 100 and 300 vehicles on the lot at any time. In 2024, the average new vehicle transaction price in the United States sat at around $48,000. A lot with 200 cars represents roughly $10 million in vehicles sitting outside. You do not pay for that inventory out of pocket. Nobody does. You finance it through an arrangement called floor plan financing. A bank, or the manufacturer's own financing arm, lends you the money to stock the lot. You pay interest on every single vehicle from the day it arrives until the day it is sold. Not a flat fee. Daily interest, accumulating on every car. Every day a vehicle sits unsold on that lot, it is generating interest charges that come directly out of whatever profit the sale eventually produces. A car sitting for 90 days has cost you 90 days of interest. When you finally sell it, you net less than if you had sold it on day 10, which means the dealership is in a constant race against time on every piece of inventory. Speed of sale is not just good for cash flow. It is directly connected to profitability on every single unit. Add the working capital needed to pay staff, fund the service department, cover marketing, and bridge the gap between opening and generating consistent revenue. The total cost to acquire and properly capitalize a dealership in a major market typically runs somewhere between $5 and $15 million, depending on the brand and location. Some franchises in competitive markets go considerably higher. Now let us talk about the sale itself, because this is where the first major surprise lands. The average gross profit on a new car sale in the United States in a normal market year runs somewhere around $1,500 to $2,000. On a vehicle with a sticker price of $48,000, that is a margin of roughly 3 to 4% before expenses. The salesperson earns a commission. The sales manager earns a cut. The desk manager who structured the deal gets paid. The showroom has to be open and lit and staffed. The floor plan interest has been running since that car arrived on the lot. By the time you account for the direct costs attached to closing that sale, the net profit to the dealership from selling the car can be almost nothing. On a meaningful number of transactions, it is genuinely nothing, sometimes below zero. This is not a poorly run dealership. This is how the business is structured. The manufacturers know that the new car margin is thin. They have built a hidden subsidy into the system to help. It is called Holdback. After a dealer sells a new car, the manufacturer sends back a payment typically equal to 2 to 3% of the vehicle's original sticker price. On a $48,000 car, that is roughly $1,000 arriving after the sale closes. The customer never sees it. It does not appear anywhere in the transaction paperwork. It is a quiet payment between the manufacturer and the dealer that exists to make the economics of selling new cars less painful than they would otherwise be. Holdback is part of why dealers are careful about revealing their true cost on a vehicle. The invoice price the customer sometimes demands to see does not reflect holdback. So even when a dealer appears to be selling at invoice, they are still receiving a payment after the fact that the customer does not know about. But holdback only partially offsets how thin the front end really is. So where does the real money come from? It comes from the back of the house. When you buy a car and the deal is agreed, you get walked to a separate office. It might be called the finance office or the business office. In the industry, it is called the finance and insurance office, or the F&I office. That room is where the dealership actually makes its money. The finance manager sitting across from you has one job: to increase the value of your transaction after you have already decided to buy the car. They offer you financing, often at a rate marked up above what the bank actually quoted them. They offer you an extended warranty, paint protection, gap insurance, tire and wheel coverage, key replacement plans, appearance protection packages. Each product generates margin, sometimes significant margin. The rate markup works like this. The bank approves you at 5%. The dealer quotes 7%. The difference, on a $40,000 loan over 5 years, adds up to real money. Money the bank pays to the dealer as a fee for originating the loan. The customer never sees that payment either. The extended warranty you buy for $2,500 might cost the dealer a few $100s to set up with the warranty administrator. The profit on that single product from that single customer can exceed what the entire car sale generated on the front end. Across a month of transactions, the finance and insurance office at a healthy dealership can match or exceed the profit generated by the entire new car sales floor. The per-vehicle income from that back office typically runs between $1,000 and $1,500. On the same car where the new car department made a few $100s, the finance office generates multiples of that from the same customer on the same transaction. This is the actual business of a car dealership, not the selling of cars. The financing and insuring of car ownership after the sale is already agreed. Even more reliable than the finance office over the long run is the service department. New car sales move with the economy. When interest rates rise, monthly payments go up, and people stop buying new cars. The sales floor can go quiet very quickly when conditions shift. The service department does not follow that pattern. Cars need maintenance regardless of what the economy is doing. They need oil changes, brake pads, tires, fluids, filters, and the occasional larger repair. Warranty work comes from the manufacturer at a set reimbursement rate. Recall work brings customers in at no charge to them but with manufacturer compensation to the dealer. Customers paying for their own service are charged at dealership labor rates that typically run between $100 and $200 per hour, depending on the brand and the market. A busy service department generates reliable income every week of the year. Slow week in new car sales, the service lanes are still full. Recession hits and people stop buying new vehicles, they start spending more on maintaining the ones they already own. The service department often does better when new car sales do worse, because people hold their existing vehicles longer and spend more keeping them running. The most important number in a dealership's service department is called the effective labor rate. That is the average amount billed per hour of technician time across all jobs in the department. A dealer who manages that number carefully, who fills every service bay efficiently, who builds the kind of customer relationship that means people return for scheduled maintenance rather than going to an independent shop down the road, has a business that can carry a slow quarter in new car sales in a way that a dealership with no loyalty in its service lanes simply cannot. Used cars occupy the space between the new car department and the service department in terms of what they contribute to the bottom line. The margins on used vehicles are structurally better than on new ones. The manufacturer is not involved. There is no franchise agreement governing the price. A car bought at auction for $12,000 can be sold for $17,000, and the dealer keeps the $5,000 difference. The manufacturer gets nothing. There is no invoice price for the customer to reference. The pricing is entirely within the dealer's control. Used car departments at well-run dealerships regularly generate more gross profit than the new car department next door. Lower cost of goods, wider margins, and no manufacturer interference in the pricing. Here is something that takes new dealership owners time to fully absorb. You do not choose what vehicles you receive. The manufacturer decides which cars go to which dealers. They call it allocation. The formula they use considers your historical sales volume, your market, your facility standards, your CSI scores, and their own production priorities. If a particular model is short in supply because the factory cannot build them fast enough, the manufacturer determines which dealers get the available units and which ones wait. In normal conditions, this creates ongoing tension. You want more of the vehicles that sell easily in your market and fewer of the ones that sit. The manufacturer's allocation does not always match what your customers are actually asking for. You end up with the wrong mix and spend time and money moving units that do not naturally fit your area. In extreme conditions, this dynamic can define the entire business. The chip shortage that started during the pandemic made this clearer than anything in the industry's recent history. Semiconductors that control modern vehicle electronics became almost impossible to source. Manufacturers could not build at full capacity. Lots that had carried 200 vehicles were sitting with 20. Customers were waiting months for vehicles to arrive. The unusual outcome was that many dealers made more money in 2021 and 2022 than in any previous year in their history. With almost no inventory available, demand outstripped supply dramatically. Transaction prices moved above sticker for the first time most dealers had ever seen. Customers who had negotiated below MSRP their entire lives were paying $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 over sticker simply to get a vehicle when they needed one. Margins on new car sales that normally ran $1,500 per unit were running $5,000 or more. The chip shortage eventually resolved. Inventory rebuilt. Transaction prices came back toward MSRP, and in some segments below it. The good times ended. What the shortage revealed in the meantime was not that the business model had changed. It was that the structural thinness of new car margins in a normal market was exactly that. Structural and permanent. For decades, laws across most American states required automakers to sell through franchise dealers rather than directly to customers. Dealer associations had lobbied those laws into existence over many years. They created a legal moat around the franchise model. Tesla did not have a dealer network when it started selling cars, so it opened its own stores. Company-owned locations where employees helped customers configure and order vehicles. No negotiation, no finance office performing the markup, no holdback. The price was the price, and Tesla kept all of it. The established dealer associations fought this in court, state by state. Some states sided with the dealers and forced Tesla to operate differently. Others permitted the direct model. The legal fights ran for years, but what the Tesla experience proved to the rest of the industry was more significant than any single court ruling. Customers were willing to buy expensive vehicles without a traditional dealership experience. Many preferred it. The fixed price, no negotiation model appealed to buyers who found the traditional process uncomfortable. Rivian, Lucid, and other newer manufacturers followed the same approach. Ford and General Motors have since invested heavily in digital sales processes designed to reduce friction and put the customer in control of more of the transaction before they ever set foot on a lot. The traditional dealer network is not disappearing. It is too large, too entrenched, and too well organized politically for that to happen quickly. But the pressure on the model is real. Manufacturers are watching what direct-to-consumer sales prove about customer preference. And the finance and insurance income that currently flows through the dealership back office is exactly the part of the model that a manufacturer might prefer to control directly one day. Here is the Goodyear, a popular brand in a growing market. Strong allocation because your CSI scores are solid and your volume is healthy. The new car department running 200 units a month. The finance office generating $1,200 per vehicle. The service department, full 5 days a week at a competitive labor rate. The used car department turning inventory quickly with strong margins. All 4 parts of the business working at the same time. You are generating several $1,000,000 in net profit before the owner's compensation. The kind of operation that eventually sells for a high multiple of its earnings when you decide it is time to move on. Here is the realistic year. Interest rates rise. Monthly payments jump because financing costs have gone up, and people who were planning to buy a new car decide to wait. Sales volume drops from 200 units to 120. The finance office generates less total income because there are fewer deals. The floor plan interest on your inventory keeps running whether sales are strong or not. You have cars that have been sitting for 70, 80, 90 days accumulating interest charges that erode whatever you eventually make when they finally sell. The manufacturer's facility standards and CSI requirements do not pause because the market is difficult. The building costs the same to operate, regardless of how many cars you move this month. The operations that survive a year like that are the ones with loyal service customers, who keep the back of the house generating income even when the front goes quiet. The ones that do not survive are usually carrying too much debt, too dependent on new car volume, or sitting in a market that has moved away from them faster than they could adjust. So if you still want to own a car dealership, here is what you are actually buying. You are not buying a car business in the way most people imagine. The cars on the lot are not the business. They are the reason the customers come in. The business is what happens after they decide to buy one. The financing, the insurance products, the warranty. The service relationship that starts the day they drive off the lot and continues for as long as they own the vehicle. The manufacturer controls the brand, the inventory allocation, the facility standards, and the measurement of how your customers feel. The economy controls whether people are buying or waiting. You control the service department, the finance office, the used car inventory, and the customer experience that makes people want to come back when the car needs work, and come back again when they are ready for the next one. The lit lot out front is what draws them in. Everything behind the showroom is where the business actually lives.